Today's session does qualify for 1.5 contact hours of nursing CEUs. Walden University is accredited as a provider of nursing continuing professional development by the American Nurses Credentialing Centers Commission on Accreditation. More information at the end of today's session will be given out so you can claim that 1.5 hour of nursing units. So today's session we'd like to welcome you to is Overcoming Work Overload, the Wellness Way. We have Dr. Eboni Green and Dr. Sarah Pavelka on the line who will be presenting during today's workshop. We're super excited to have them. And at this point, I'm going to turn things over to you, Dr. Sarah. So great to see you today.
Thank you. We appreciate it from the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Mentoring Excellence for inviting us here today. As Leda said, I am Dr. Sarah Pavelka. I am the Associate Dean for the MHA program. And you may be wondering, Master's in Healthcare Administration, why Sarah? I actually have a clinical background. I'm an occupational therapist. And so I have quite a background in the ideas of around wellness, whether it's rehab or recovery or doing a lot with mental health, including mental illness and substance use. And so having an opportunity to be able to present to my colleagues today here at Walden, I am extremely excited to be here with all of you. I have been at Walden for about 6.5 years. However, I have had also another background with Walden. I'm a graduate of one of the PhD programs in health sciences. So just been on the student side and understand what it is to be a student online, kind of going through my kids growing up at the same time as I was finishing and doing my PhD. So I definitely understand where all of you and even where our students are at. So excited to be here today. I am going to turn it over to Dr. Eboni Green, my colleague in former MHA and now with the DHA program. So Eboni, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. I am Eboni Green. My background is in nursing and long-term care. I had a goal of being a long-term care administrator and did that for a period of time and recognized the many challenges that leaders face in trying to achieve a good status, a positive status for their patients, their staff, regulatory, the ownership, and found that my calling really has been teaching family and frontline caregivers, and also really focusing on wellness among our frontline caregivers, nurses, and such. And so this is a topic, as Dr. Sarah mentioned, that is near and dear to my heart, to think about how we can do things from a place of wellness. My role at Walden, I began as a contributing faculty member, and that was many moons ago. I've been with Walden for 16 years, full-time the last three and a half years, and just recently was promoted to the academic coordinator for the PhD and the professional doctorate program. So I am excited to be here with Sarah and Lida and to be here with you for us to talk about how to manage our workloads the wellness way.
Today's objectives, I believe from the nursing standpoint, I'll just cover them briefly so you all can hear them for the sake of the recording as well. We are going to talk about the root causes of work overload in an organization, maybe some of the things that are happening in your world. And then we're going to move on to what are the negative impacts of that work overload, both on you as an employee, well-being, productivity, and also the organizational performance. So maybe how is it affecting our customers or the students, or even coworkers. And then last but not least, It wouldn't be like us as two caregivers and two individuals who want to help give you some practical strategies for solutions and things that you can do to manage that work overload. So if we can move on to the first section, it's not about the load that breaks you down, it's the way you carry it. And I think this is a great quote to talk about how we do, because we all have things in our lives that we must carry, whether it's work or home or family, or maybe even a caregiving role. And so there's all kinds of things that tend to pile on us sometimes when we're a younger individual, but as we become an older adult, it does work and it loads up on us. And so how can we help reduce that? Because we're probably not going to get rid of the stressors completely. It's just, how do we deal with them? So into what happens, Leda, if you will move on to the next. I think it's just a slide for, yep. So we're going to talk first about uncovering the roots of work overload. So why are some of these things happening? So again, next slide. So when these things start to work on us, the things called stressors or work overload, we often become overwhelmed. And it's not just necessarily a state of mind, but it often can be a situation where some of us, that's our normal operating mode. It becomes from starting with occasional and then moving maybe through a hiccup or something that we didn't expect, kind of that all of a sudden a hurdle, but then it becomes a critical issue. And in this presentation, we're hoping to give you those solutions for both those things that would pop up in our lives, and then also what are some of those things that are maybe more long-term stressors and what you can do on a daily basis. And I'm going to tempt all of you, I hope you stick around, because Eboni is going to give us an exercise at the very end, and we're going to get a chance to practice today. And every time I go to this, I'm just going to be honest with you, the first time we did this presentation, we did it for the Department of Health and Human Services, and there was 400 people on the line, and I thought to myself, Eboni, how is this going to go? And it went fantastic. So just dangling that little bit of carrot out there for you for what happens today. So next slide, please. So what are some of the core issues of work overload? Work overload is ultimately about a mismatch in either allocation, expectation, and or resources. And so the fact that we feel like we aren't able to get to all the things or do all the things, or maybe even do all the things that we're supposed to do in our lives with our own expectations of excellence or success. And so that it really becomes a mismatch or a imbalance in both expectations given to us, our own expectations, and what is there happening in front of us. So next slide. One of those core issues is, Linda, if you want to go on to the next slide, there we go. One of the first issues we're going to talk about is poor task allocation. Allocation, in a sense, is giving out, or if we will, being able to share that workload. And sometimes poor work allocation comes from the fact that things are being distributed or given to different tasks and team members that aren't necessarily done with all of the information. It wasn't that they were done wrong. It's just that sometimes we don't have all of the details when we either get things, or as managers, when we are actually giving them out and actually asking our team members to do these tasks or to take on another challenge. It's not because we don't mean well, it's sometimes that we just haven't had the full story. So we might inadvertently assign tasks to employees that are already at capacity. And that doesn't even mean work capacity. It might be something going on at home that the employees didn't necessarily even feel like sharing with us. And that's rightly so. I mean, they don't have to share all those personal things that are going on. But as managers, we don't necessarily always know that full story. And so that's the kind of the heart of when we start to think about allocation. So communication is key. We might not also understand the whole entire skill set that it takes, and it might not be that that employee has all of those skills. Not again, not because they're not a skilled employee. It's just again not having all those skills. Happened to me yesterday. Having an opportunity to be able to run reports out of some of the things that we're doing in the classroom. As you all know, we had accreditation, and I thought I knew how to run the report. Thought it was all going to be there. Started to run the report, and it didn't happen. It didn't give me the information that I wanted. So it didn't mean that I didn't have the skills. It also meant that it wasn't necessarily in the system correctly. So I had to call on my resources. I had to call on those individuals that could help us set the report up right. In other words, set up the LMS to be able to do it. Again, not that I didn't have the skills, it was more of a permission thing. And so we have to call in our team members. But again, things that were given to me didn't necessarily go as planned, not because I didn't want to do it. It's just we didn't have all the resources and actually all the skills to make it fix. It also can lead to bottlenecks where tasks are not effectively executed. And this has an opportunity. Again, going back to something as simple as running my reports. It took time. I had to pull someone from our PDCD team off in what we were doing and having an opportunity. So being able to, again, create a seamless system isn't as easy when we don't have all of the information. So next slide. We also can have a root cause through unrealistic expectations. The fact that we also expect certain things to be happening with ourselves and maybe even employees are often, again, a challenge because, again, we think we know where we want to go, or we think we know all the hurdles or the issues that will come up alongside of it, but often we don't. And so sometimes we give others, or we have a task placed on us that don't necessarily have a clear set of expectations. And that often happens. It often happens in a world like ours as a university, or even some of those outside things when we just don't know what the full embodiment of it is going to be. Again, we made the right decision at the time with the information we had. As we start to progress through, we find out more information. There's often a time where there's also a chronic gap between goals and the capabilities of the employees. Now, we often think this where, oh, maybe we should just work harder. And that's not necessarily the case. My background, and I said I had a clinical background, but I also have a background in operations. The system is perfectly designed for the outcomes we're getting. So if our goals are not getting met, we actually have to change the system. And it's not changing the people, it's changing the system in which those people work. And I could say that 1,000 times. We need to hear that over and over and over again. It's not, if we're not getting the results we want, changing the system will be the only way to achieve those goals. Why? Because we have to have realistic capabilities and opportunities for those that we work. And then the last one is the actual time and resources required to take this task. It won't be as easy as we always think it is. And having that opportunity for realistic resources and providing the resources to be able to complete those tasks. On to the next slide, please. What does this all mean is that we have to have and encourage an open dialogue with what we are doing. So if we can have open dialogue and communication with our employees, feeling positive about opening and having an open dialogue. This will be important and critical for us as we continue to move forward in what we do. We have to have regular one-on-one meetings or regular team meetings and be able to talk about our employees and what is happening with the opportunities that are in their world. Again, ask them how they're doing. Is there anything else we can do? Is there anything that's maybe going right or wrong? And having that opportunity to be able to talk about what is going on in their lives, and not necessarily, again, getting into that all that personal stuff, but being able to pull from them in many different ways to be able to see what is happening with their lives. And maybe it's just stressors that we don't necessarily have the opportunity to know about all the time with our employees. Next slide. So what we can do with this is have a moment of self-assessment. So what I'm going to do with you guys is we're going to talk about this, and I want you guys to think about this and encourage the opportunity that we have to have an open dialogue and have some of those pieces that we may not necessarily always think about in our lives, but how do those pieces come together and create that overload feeling? So what I want us to think about today, and we're going to give you an opportunity to chat in and put a chat in there, is we want you to observe the signs of work overload. We want you to think about things that you are going through, and think about, have you ever had these signs in your world? Declines in work quality? Maybe it's missed deadlines. Maybe it's changes in your behavior or others' behavior that you have noticed. And so we have to think about what is going on, not only in our worlds, but also in our colleagues' worlds that we work with. So if you're a manager and you're listening to this or attending today, think about it's kind of both internally and externally as we start to think about the worlds that we live in. So if anybody is bold enough, as we will today, to chat and talk about what have they observed, what have they self-assessed and found in their own world. Is anybody bold enough to put something out there they've experienced and observed in those signs and done a self-assessment? So I'll give us all a second as we think about chatting.
And everyone's mic is enabled, so I believe the mic icon on your screens, unless it depends on the version of Zoom, but it should be in the lower left-hand corner.
If you don't necessarily want to tell us verbally, you could give us a thumbs up if you've experienced any of these, and a heart if you haven't. And I'll share that I think that sometimes when we are taking on new roles or starting new terms like we've just done, that it can be increasingly challenging to manage all of the things that you want to manage. And so that prioritizing can be a way to help you through that. But when you're feeling like you're having declines in your quality of work, or oh my goodness, if you miss a deadline, or if it's not necessarily you, but a colleague, that you're noticing that there's a change in maybe their engagement or their generally it will be engagement, but maybe tone from emails and things of that nature, that sometimes we just need that other person that is a colleague to check in on us. And that opens the door so that you can have a conversation about how maybe this is the start of the term. I have these expectations. I'm feeling overwhelmed, and at least admitting it to ourselves. I think of overload in, if I was thinking about it from a stress distress purview, I would say that when you're in overload, you're distressed. And I often find that it's very difficult to know where to start when you are in that functioning in a distressed um, from a point of distress, that it can be hard to figure out what do I need to do next. And Dr. Sarah shared a very good example just a bit ago where she was working on a report, has everything there, goes to run the report, and maybe there's a moment of distress. What do I do? And then she take a break or a breather, and then she thought, okay, I have these resources available, and I'm going to use these resources to get through this. That was a really great example. So I'll stop there.
No, Ebony, that's great. So thank you. Ebony and I work very well together. You can see we ping pong back and forth. Linda, as you go onto the, or Lyda, if you go onto the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the opportunities that we have for self-assessment. And one of the things that I know I start to do when I start to get stressed is I can literally feel my breathing kind of you're fine to go forward. I can feel it my breathing starts to become very high, like almost up into my throat. And I realize that it's starting to even quicken, not necessarily be rapid breathing like I just ran, because trust me, I don't run, so it wouldn't take me much, but it's that I start to kind of like not pull it all the way in. And I just know that sometimes if I just stop and I can just all of a sudden realize that my breathing is where it is, and I just have to just kind of open up my rib cage and just be able to think, okay, just pull in one big, long, deep breath. It's often enough. So it's that self-assessment, kind of that stop and shift moment that we have to think about, which is the first step in anything when it comes to work overload. So on to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about self-assessment, and then we'll move on to Ebony. So Lyda, if you want to move forward.
Yeah, before we go to the next slide, Nicoletta had a question, and
yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Everyone can unmute as well. This is a safe workshop place. But Nicoletta asked, what are your recommendations for colleagues checking in when working remotely? There's no one in the office next door to speak with. So check in on me. So what are your thoughts on that and your recommendations?
Ebony, Ebony, I don't know if you want to take this real quickly.
Sure.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do in our program is we have, for a specific part of the program, we have weekly meetings for our folks who are working with students who are in their capstone. That kind of lends itself to an opportunity to sidebar, and meaning that after that call, that's always a good time. But sometimes the best thing I find in my group on my team is to either send a quick email, or if it's somebody that I work really close with, I might just send them a quick checking in on you text. And so I think it just depends on what your team looks like and the comfort level, not necessarily so much to vent, but to actually just let someone know that, okay, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed here. How can we get things moving so that we're all moving in the right direction? So a quick email. I guarantee if you're feeling overwhelmed, I guarantee other folks on your team are feeling overwhelmed.
And I also, with my team, my team is very diverse. I have individuals who are more extroverted, and I have team members who are more introverted. And it's interesting because they really start to kind of almost yin and yang and help each other. We have a group text message that goes around often sometimes. And I'm talking about some of my core. I check in with my contributing folks differently, but having that opportunity, as Eboni said, to be able to just what works for that person. You may want to, if you are worried or if you yourself, is talk about what's your communication style. Is it a text? Is it an email? Is it a Teams chat? Is it just a phone call to just kind of talk about what's happening? You know, there's so much, it feels like we work 80% of our days. But when you really look at it, there's so much that happens in work and outside of work that I think is important that we at least be able to say to people, I'm not in a great place today. I don't need to tell you why. But I'm just not feeling it. And it's the beauty of working what we do is that a lot of our work can be done off schedule, but having that opportunity to just take those moments for yourself. Maybe it's 5 minutes and reach out. And sometimes just by honestly saying it, I'm just not feeling it. And I know I was a contributing member and a full-time faculty member at a former university. And I know there were times when I should not have been grading because I was just not having it. And I'm like, I am going to be super mean today to these students. And I knew I had to walk away from it. And so it was one of those things that you have to be able to look at what you're doing and where you're at. So with the last piece of self-assessment, because I know we've got a lot of really good information to get to today, you have to take steps creating a balanced, productive, healthy lifestyle. You have to identify those issues. That's the first step. What's happening in my world? What is it? Is it the allocations? Is it the expectation? Is it just me not taking a moment to realize what's happening? And then being able to target those interventions. So first step in any improvement is identifying current state and root cause. And so now I'm going to turn it, if we can move on to the next section in the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Eboni and to look a little bit more at what are some of the symptoms that may be happening. So we will continue.
Thank you, Sarah. So the negative impacts of work overload. Boy, let's think about that. Too much stress at work. So being too stressed from work can affect people. When you're too busy, you can start to feel overwhelmed, unhappy. It can also impact if it's impacting you as a faculty member or a leader, it is going to in some way impact our students. So we want to make sure that we're taking that time when we have the ability to see and assess ourselves, as we were doing in the previous slides, to see, are we experiencing too much stress, and how can we look at making adjustments there. Sometimes it's even really helpful to see your doctor to talk about your stress load. I know at Walden at Adtalem, we have really great benefits. And so sometimes that may mean either meeting with the doctor, talking with, we have all types of different coaches. And I know that we have some new resources that are available that Lida knows more about that can help you assess, are you experiencing too much stress at work? So we can go to the next slide. So when we are overstressed, we can have challenges with productivity and organizational performance. So we've all been just going through our organizational performance, and we're all trying to do have positive impacts with our students. But if you're too busy, then you start to do your job poorly. And so it's important to have those conversations about what does your workload look like and how can there be adjustments made so that you can feel good about what you're doing and where you're allocating your time. When we are working too much, we have too much burning on both ends. It's kind of like this frayed cord here. It's easy to make more mistakes because um, you're really tired. I've done this, and maybe you could give me a thumbs up if you have, or a heart if you haven't, where I'm reading an email, and I read emails and things all day, all evening sometimes. And I'll read an email and I'll just immediately read that and think, what? And I have to sometimes close it and open it back up. And that way I can know what was actually being said, because my first read through is not always that accurate, especially when I am stressed. So I always like to do a second read through, because I tend to maybe respond to what's the first sentence or so, and there might be a lot going on. And to be able to step away for a minute, that makes a big um, doing that makes it really good. Okay, makes it really helpful. It makes this can make everyone at work feel worse, because if one person is unhappy, then this really can make other people unhappy as well. It's like that, those situations where you have one person come in with the Debbie Downer type personality. And I really love the character on SNL, Saturday Night Live, where everything she says, it there's a sound and it says womp womp, and she makes a funny face. That can really impact your team. So it's important too to self reflect and take that break away. And of course, we're going to talk about strategies, but so that you're not passing on your Debbie Downer feelings. And then if everyone is distressed or stressed, they might not work together as well. You're probably just not. That's going to cause challenges. Um, okay, next slide, please. So, productivity and organizational performance. So, if you're too tired to work well, the whole team won't do as well as they could. Not only do they start doing their jobs poorly, but they also may not want to help each other as much. So, again, coming from that space where you can take a step back and reflect, shut the computer, turn on some good music, anything that can give you that quick mental step away, so that you're not responding or interacting with people when you're with your team members when you are super overwhelmed. Feeling like I or we can't do a good job anymore, oh, that's really challenging. That was one of the reasons why I just really wanted to be an administrator. I felt like I was going to be changing the lives of my clients, and I love working with seniors and folks. And when you feel like everything is set up so that there will be few successes for your team or your staff or your leadership, or with all of those interactions, it can really burn a person out very quickly. Somebody who wants to do a good job, who's trying to do a good job, um, not having the ability to reach out and communicate, that can really hinder and end up causing problems not only with the staff or the faculty, but also that trickles down to student experience. Companies and schools try to make things better. They can make sure everyone has just the right amount of work. Our students are often doing a million things. They're like we are. They're pursuing a degree, but they have families, they have jobs, they have things that are happening that are not in our scope of work. And so when we're in the classroom, if we are able to um, have that positive attitude, we may find that students are more willing to say, hey, I don't want to give you the details, but I'm just having a rough week. And that can basically help us with student experience rather than getting that angry email later on from the student because they, didn't earn points or what have you. Again, those types of situations where the student has a bad experience, then that trickles to the faculty having a negative experience, and then that trickles to or moves on to leadership having to come in to try to fix or adjust problems when really we just need to be cognizant of one another and see do check-ins. And if it's not happening in your unit right now, maybe it's something you could, talk with your colleagues about how we check in with each other so that we make sure students do have the positive experience. I always say if the faculty is having a good time, I don't necessarily mean a party, but that we're enjoying what we teach, we like the topics, we are enjoying the students are generally going to have a good experience, and that means we're going to have fewer complaints, fewer dissatisfied students, and that's going to help our productivity and performance. Next slide, please. Okay, strategies for managing work overload. So Sarah's going to start, Dr. Sarah's going to start there.
Yes, thanks. If we can go to the first slide for them, we are gonna give you guys 6 strategies. We're gonna kind of ping pong this back and forth a little bit. I love these strategies, particularly this first one. Taking some time for planning. Okay, I am a planner, y'all. My Myers-Briggs like blown off the chart for somebody that likes to organize and plan. I don't always have the cleanest closets in the world, but I have an opportunity to plan. I'll do it. I probably missed my calling of being a party planner somewhere in my day, but when it comes to work or even some of the things I am doing at home, sometimes we miss the opportunity to plan. We kind of just think, oh, this is routine or it's something that we've always done, but it's taking that opportunity and that time to plan. So let's talk about, even within planning, what we can do. 1 hour of effective planning. I used to think this was crazy when my colleagues said Sunday night, I looked at my calendar and what do I have coming up for the week? Or I went in and I just covered some emails. Y'all, I've started to do that since I started to work at Walden. We do work out there by ourselves so much that you kind of have to put these things in place. It's that Monday morning startup meeting for yourself, whether it's Monday or Tuesday or Friday or Sunday. It's what's that 1 hour of effective planning do for you for the next day, 5 days, 3 days, whatever you can do. Maybe it's even an hour of planning for something you have going on that night. And so taking that time to sit down, look ahead, think through, what do I need? Is there something I need to go shopping for? Is there something I need to prepare for? Doesn't matter what it is. It's that taking that moment. And I often find that if I take a deep breath and then do it, the task seems a little bit easier when I've taken that prep time. So it's that planning to plan. If anybody is a Dr. Edward Deming follower, he had a saying about planning to plan. And it was that opportunity that we had to say, we're going to sit down and think about what we have coming up. The second thing, think about a purpose, a deadline, and the results of the project. So maybe it's, what's the point of it? What does the end look like? What is the final piece? What is the final deadline? And then what should it look like? And move it backwards. So from the deadline back, what do I need to have 2 weeks out? What do I need to have? Maybe it's 2 days out. What is it a week before? What is it, a month before? Whatever it is, start with the purpose, the point, the final results, and the deadline. By the way, we talked about communication earlier. When you get a project, maybe it's a good thing to send that to whoever gave it to you and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking the final purpose is, the results should look like, and the deadline. Am I Am I cool? Is this good? And give some feedback early before you get to that point. So thinking about that prior to planning for it, setting it in, blocking it into your time. How much time do you think is required? Blocking out that time. I know one of the things that I find myself on is I procrastinate on things that I think are going to take me a long time, or I know that are going to be difficult in some way, not even skill wise difficult, but just maybe it's a miserable task. Maybe it's something that I'm uncomfortable with. But when I get into it, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, dude, that wasn't very hard. I don't know why I was so dreading it. So sometimes it's thinking about the purpose, deadline, and then blocking out that time that you just need to work through to get yourself started. I am a huge list person. You guys, I have notepads and note pieces and sticky notes, and I probably should have bought stock in 3M because I am, when I used to be actually at a physical office all the time with people, they called me the sticky note queen because I constantly was moving things around on sticky notes, writing them down. I tell you, I've had no, like, remembering a list. I'll go to the grocery store and forget half the stuff that I was supposed to. So it is, if I don't have it written down, it is key. You guys, I find writing it out, planning it, even it just putting it pen to paper will so help with all of these. So thinking about Nicoletta, you're a huge list person too. And the older I get, the more I write. So it's like, oh, I don't, I know I need to be using my cognitive brain cells in a different way, but this is, this is what just has to be. So having that opportunity to plan is very key. And however you do it, whether it's on your phone, I really like the old paper and pen. I know, my kids are putting notes in their phone and all of that, but it's that, I don't know, something about seeing it, something about crossing it off. It is very rewarding as well. So next one, and I'll turn it over to Ebony because I could talk about planning forever. So
I'm a big planner too. I do Monday morning, and I do like a grid on my paper, and I know what I need to do. And then as things pop up, I add them to that list. And then, that is very helpful for me, because otherwise what I find is it just keeps rolling around in my head, and then I don't get any down. My brain is not getting any downtime. So writing it down is always a first step. So thanks for sharing that, Dr. Sarah. Okay, next slide. So, choosing what to do first. So, I saw that Nicoletta mentioned in the chat that things that she can do right away that she does, get those out of the way first. I totally agree with that strategy. So, if it's an email that I can quickly respond to, or something I can quickly send to someone, or a phone call that I can quickly make, then I will do that rather than putting it on the list. Then on my list, I do put the things that are priority at the top of the list. I am like Dr. Sarah too, with the loving of the highlighters and the sticky notes, and actual pen and paper. But I have also started to put things, make sure they're in my calendar here, my calendar that I have at my desk, so that I know what my week is looking like, especially when I maybe have students that are trying to get an appointment or things of that nature. So I do work by listing out the things that I need to do first. It also makes me feel, I'm an old Stephen Covey and oh, I can't think of the name, but the Baldwin planning, maybe it's not Baldwin either, but the planner. I'm a big person with the planning too, where how great it feels to check something off your list. I love that. Um, Tools like lists or apps can help identify jobs to do right away or what can wait later. I'm more stressed out by new technology, then I feel more satisfied when I can write it down and I have it all in one place. Thank you very much, Franklin Quest and Franklin Covey. Thank you. And so that is very helpful for me. Now, when I have appointments and things like that, I will put that in my phone immediately because I will definitely lose the card between, an appointment and home. So I rather just put it in my phone and then I can put it in my calendar. But anything I can do right away that doesn't need to make it to the list, that one touch rule is important to me, keeps my to-do list shorter. And for more important things that are going to need me to actually block out time to review. And again, I'm a big ruminator. So if I don't write it down, I'm going to be thinking over it and thinking over it. And I find that putting it on the paper and on my list keeps me organized, and then checking it off makes me happy. And then prioritizing to handle big things first, especially when there are large projects where I know that it's going to take time. I try to break it down into steps of, okay, getting organized for it, and then making my list of what things need to be accomplished for that particular project, and then working backwards and filling things in and starting early on anything that's going to be due. Those are ways that help me manage feeling that distress or overload, where sometimes it's very hard to even figure out where to start when I'm feeling that way. So I'll hand it back over to Dr. Sarah for the next slide.
Thank you. Next slide. The third thing that we're going to talk about is making real goals or realistic goals. And I'm going to put an acronym, and I think we've all probably heard before somewhere in our lives about having SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time oriented. That kind of covers really this slide. When we think about setting goals, not only goals for ourselves, but others as we start to delegate and hand things off, we want to think about those goals. Are they real? Are they realistic, specific, measurable, achievable? And kind of use that SMART acronym as a little bit of a checklist. But beyond that, we also want to make goals that fit what you can do or what your team can do. So yes, they need to be challenging. Yes, they need to be those big, hairy, audacious goals, but also they need to be somewhat realistic. And so thinking about maybe it's retention in your program, or maybe it's enrollment, or whatever it would be, we want to be able to not only have like a long-term goal, but maybe necessarily what are the short-term. These help everyone from doing things and feeling their best as they start to move through those goals. I really like milestones within this, and maybe it's small celebrations along the way, and being able to say, you know what, it is important to see the monthly progress. It is important to be able to see things, but also be able to talk about when things aren't going in the right direction. What happens when we maybe had a goal of X, but we're getting farther away from it? It's going backwards. What's going on? Maybe it's not the right process. Again, perfectly designed for the outcomes we're getting. If we need a different outcome, we got to change the process. And it helps when you have those goals, because you can see whether you're moving toward progress or not. So think about realistic goals, think about SMART goals, and go through this little acronym as you start to set goals for yourself and your team members. And think about, are they specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and do we have some time orientation to them? So in the sake of time, speaking of, I will hand it back over to Eboni for the next slide, which is number 4.
So, thank you. So, breaking tasks into smaller pieces. This is big, especially when we're doing goals for the year and what we're trying to accomplish. We have that major goal of what we want to do, and then we have to um, pull that apart, parse that apart so that we can see what do we need to do? What are the steps that we can see now that are going to help us get there? Knowing that those the goal may not change, but how we get there probably will need to be modified more than once. So we will start with just one task, break that big project into smaller steps. I like that because, again, if it's something that I have on my list, I'm crossing off something, I'm seeing where my time is being spent, and I'm having that ability to celebrate my successes. Um, and then each step feels like a little victory, and before you know it, the whole job is done. That's super important and very nice, a nice feeling. We can go to the next slide.
Number 5, stop multitasking. I admit it. I'm a multitasker. I maybe it's a generation thing, but and it's also I think a phone thing. We could probably talk about this one forever why we're there, but um, I know I need to stop myself when I start doing it. When I start it because it never feels like anything gets done, and I find myself bouncing between emails and projects and a recommendation letter and doing this, and then I forget where I'm at, um, and it's the piece that if I would just stop and finish a project, start to finish, and move to the next one, things would go so much easier and actually probably get done a lot faster. So ways to stop multitasking. Do what's the most important things first and then move down the list. Eboni gave us a great thing about making that list, prioritizing it. Maybe it's a quadrant, maybe it's an urgent or to do or just a check on, whatever however you want to organize them. But again, stick with the task, move all the way through. Allocate blocks of time for these activities. I also find that if I know I have a project that is going to take a super long time, maybe it's going to take a couple hours, I have to give myself 30 minutes and a 5-minute break. 30 minutes and a 5-minute break. Even if it's just to get up, walk out of my office, get another cup of coffee or a glass of water or whatever it is, and come back. It's that break in the middle of instead of trying to sit through and do it for 2 hours. And that goes to firm boundaries with your capacity. Remembering as an adult that at about 45 minutes, even 60 minutes, we start to lose and wane on what happens and what's we're paying attention to. And so giving us that opportunity to stand up, particularly as we work from home, can you even shift your desk? Is it a high or lower? I find I just have to kind of walk out of the room and turn around and walk back. And being able to set those firm boundaries on that. Maybe it is a stopwatch. Maybe it is a clock that you can see from your desk a little bit better and saying, hey, I don't have Alexa, so I'll talk about, hey, Alexa, set me a timer for 30 minutes. Don't worry, she's not talking in my house, but probably all of yours. But having that ability to stop multitasking and really attend to a task and then continue to move forward. So with that, I will turn it over for number 6 to Eboni, and she will finish out our presentation.
Thank you. I will add on that just a visual. I was at the nail shop. That's usually my downtime. And I was sitting there getting a pedicure. And I looked up, and there was a lady, beautiful lady. She had a phone, two phones, a laptop, and an iPad. And she was going from each of those different things all while trying to get a manicure. And I wish, at that moment when I'm at the nail shop, I don't have my phone or anything on. I just am in the moment. But I just thought that was such a visual of sometimes what we're doing when we're multitasking, and that how um, how challenging that would must be that she couldn't take that break, because she probably could have gotten a ton of things done if she just allowed that little hour or 45 minutes to not think about what her next thing was going to be. But people will, and I'm not just saying just other people. You may have your laptop on, your TV on, your phone on, you're listening to this, the dog is here, someone's at the door. So this constant doing does not allow us time to be, and it will often lead to stress and burnout. And so this is why it's very important to split things into subtasks. I also will say, setting your environment. One of the things I do love about Walden Adtalem is that I am able to be in my home office. So during the day, I love classical music. I will listen to that. There's no talking. That sets the mood in the morning. Getting up and going outside for a minute, maybe on my front porch, just doing those little things that break up the day, but allow me to come back to my work, my students, um, refreshed makes a difference. And I do feel like it does help to decrease the distress and prevent burnout. The regular breaks, the unplugging, especially when you're at your nail shop or your massage. If you're not doing any of those things, is there a way you can fit those things into your life and not have to do anything while you're doing that? Okay, and then I have one final thing, and I think we'll then open it up for questions. So I would like for you to get comfortable. So we want to also fostering a culture of balance and well-being. So, just like in a family, everyone in the workplace needs to help each other feel good and stay healthy. So, we do have flexible schedules. Um, do take some time on the weekend if you can. I have to check in to make sure everything is going well, but I have my certain days that I know are going to be slower days, and I take that time. If I have kids over a gathering, I used to just be on the computer all the time. Nope, I turn it off, enjoy the family time. A lot of times, I don't even take pictures during family gatherings, weekly type things, because I'm trying to be present in the moment and make mental memories rather than having to have everybody worrying about pictures and things of that nature. Breaks for feeling better. So we can make sure that we um, get time to relax. We have some excellent resources in our human resources basket, where you can, like I said, weight management coaches, people who are there to help you problem solve with students. Use those resources, and then also take your breaks. And I think using those resources will allow you to take breaks. And then being supportive. So sometimes, if you just have someone who just needs you to listen, and you can almost always find that person who doesn't mind listening. It's not that you need someone to problem solve. Sometimes you just need to get it out of your mind, out of your brain. So you just talk to someone about it, and that really can be helpful. Sarah says that 10 minutes of sunshine, that is so important, and especially when we're starting to get to this fall time, and you may not, Sarah and I are in the Midwest, and so we have nice long wintry winters, and so you don't always get that sunlight, and so sometimes getting those sun lamps that give you that help you with your melatonin and your energy, feeling good, can be helpful as well. So being supportive, finding that person, that colleague. I have somebody that is not necessarily well, she is an instructor, but we aren't in the same team. Nice thing, I'll just sometimes get an email or a text. She texts me, how you doing, Dr. E? What do you need? What's going on? We don't do much more than that, but we check on each other. And that has been so meaningful the last few years, to just have someone thinking of you from time to time. And if I need to hop on a call, or she does, then we do that. Okay, next slide. So now is the time that I'd like for you to get comfortable, and if you can, um, and just listen to my voice for a moment. So, if you can just close your eyes wherever you are and be still in the moment, and then just listen to my voice. Close your eyes for just a moment, if you will, and imagine that you are traveling to a place of spiritual or religious significance that is tucked away in a remote region thousands of miles away. The voyage is arduous, but when you finally arrive at your destination, the scenery is more magnificent than you visualized. Your soul vibrates, and you are now revitalized. You take the opportunity to acknowledge that having made it to such a divine location is a testament to your inner strength. You are refreshed. Now open your eyes. You have just taken a mental pilgrimage. I hope that you're relaxed for a moment, and it can be as simple as that. Just a quick visualization, a good stepping away, a music, a stretch, yoga, some dance music, anything that's going to help you to manage the workload, your workload, the wellness way. Okay. So, are you going to go ahead? Are you going to? Okay, go ahead.
No, yeah, Ebony, I was just gonna follow up with that. You guys, I'll admit it. I do yoga. I try to do yoga. I'm not very good at it, but I also, and I think that's part of it, is the journey of learning yourself over time. And as I've done it now for, I don't know, a year and a half or so more consistently, I have gotten better. I'm still not one to like stand on my head, but I think what has helped me in that is mentally learning to let go. I could have probably, my first few times, I probably could have taken my notepad and paper in there and started writing lists of all the things I need to do instead of focusing on just learning to be in the space. And I really look at the individuals that get into that and can do that with their brain. I'm like, wow, that's such a significant challenge for me to be able to just learn to let go and focus on things like breathing or being in a better space. I think it comes with my type A personality, but the more we practice this and what Ebony did, the better you become. And it's a improvement every time. There's a little shift in our mindset every time. I'm not saying again that things are always ideal for me, but it's being able to shift those and get better and better and better as we go. And it does take time. So covering a little bit of conclusion things, we talked about what causes too much work, being able or stress, identifying those, um, feeling and understanding the things that you can do to feel better. Many of us, again, are, myself included, I like to talk through things. I walk every day. I still have the pleasure of having my mother with us on this earth, and I walk every day. I have two hunting dogs, and I blame it on them that they need to get out of the house and they need to exercise. But it's been 9 years that I have done it, and I talk to my mom in those 30 minutes. Not only do they get exercise, I get exercise, but I get that moment to kind of talk to my mom and really de-stress. I feel so much better. I can go into that walk and I can be all high strung and going a million miles an hour. And by the time I'm done with that 30 minutes, it's so, I feel so much better. And a lot of times I just tell her, hey, you know, you need to listen. Can I have your ear today? And she does it to me too. She needs to sometimes just vent and talk through things with me. So that's what often makes me feel better as well. We should all try different ideas, like picking the most important tasks first and being able to help each other. We can also ensure that we remembering to say congratulations. I was just getting into the Celebrate Great, and they changed us to the new bonfire pieces. So I'm learning bonfire and learning how to celebrate with others. But those little celebrations and those kind of congratulations, great job. It's very important. I mean, Sue does a wonderful job with all of us. If you all were able to make it to the town hall, that was really, 45 minutes of celebration, and that's important that we talk about what things are going. And I know there's a lot of things, there's things going on in our college that weren't even in Sue's presentations, but it's important that we all recognize those and be able to help what is working. It helps the stress, it helps the moments. And then thinking about the workplaces, what is your work setting, what is your work preference, and that really honestly everybody's trying to do their best, not only on your team but other teams. I communicate a lot with student success advising and our coaching teams. God bless them, they are the first line of defense for a mad student. And some days I'm just like, y'all, I don't know how you handle every phone call like that. And I know a lot of their phone calls are not upset students, but just that one student that is upset can probably really weigh on you. But they're so good at seeing the student from their perspective and where they're coming from and understanding and listening. And I think the students trying their best and upset and frustrated for a reason, SSA, takes that, listens to it, does what they can within their bounds and in their abilities, and be able to move it up the food chain when they need. And so we're all trying at the end of the day to have success. And I think that's the important thing, that we we didn't get into this profession of education. I say that in healthcare too. We didn't get into healthcare. We didn't get into education because we want to do bad things. We want to help people improve their lives. And I think that's important to remember, that we're all at the end of it trying to do our best. So Eboni, I'll turn it over to you for any final words, and then I think we can open it up to questions and answers or just comments.
Yeah, thank you. So I did want to mention that when I went to summer commencement, there at the hotel that we were at, they had some activities for that were available, and I set up a session over lunch for sound yoga. And now, of course, I did some struggling with some of the positions, but what they had you do was you had a person that a trained person walk you through different yoga poses. And then that was about the first 20 minutes. And then she had you lay down and get in this comfortable position. And she had different types of sound equipment, bells or big bowls. And she would walk around and come near. There were about 4 or 5 of us in there. It was the best. It was the best. And so when you can find those types of things to try, I'd never tried sound yoga. I haven't been able to find it here in my area, but trying something new to just take your bring you down a little bit from your level of stress. I love the idea of walks, and my husband and I do that. We solve a lot of problems, or come up with a lot of solutions, I'll say, when we're walking. Sometimes we're walking and we're listening to our own music, and sometimes the purpose of the walk is just to change our dispositions and have a conversation, and that has been really useful for me, helpful for me. So I very much enjoyed talking to you today about managing work overload and wellness. And I think Dr. Sarah and I will open it up for questions. Comments, anything you've tried that works. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and you can place those in the chat or you can certainly unmute. And I'll have to say the sound bath is amazing. I've done a couple of those, and if anyone is in an area that does those, it's truly healing, and it really puts you at a different level of relaxation than that I've ever been in before.
Me too. It was really like so surprising how,
Right?
yeah. And I was like, oh, what have I been missing?
Uh-huh. Has anyone in the audience ever been to a sound bath? I think they usually use the glass bowls. It's really amazing.
Any tips for Sarah and I about what you're doing that maybe we're not doing? Uh,
I'm
because we can always share. Yeah.
I'm seeing some comments in not necessarily new things, but people are talking about the things that we put out there already in the chat. Ebony, I know it's hard to be on speaker and see. Oh, the water immersive experience at the spa, and that would be. I have not done that. I have not been able to get to the cold bath kind of thing yet. Don't have. I am, as Ebony said, I'm in Iowa. She's in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's like, yeah, there's some of that around, but I would have to travel. So that is exciting. I would love to be able to try some of those new things.
They also have a salt room. Now, I don't know what that actually does here, but they have a salt room here. And anybody know about healing salts, where like they have a whole room set up for that, and you can go sit in that space?
I know, Ebony, when I was, I had the finally took a vacation after 5 years and an accreditation visit. And they had one in the spa that we were at. And it's a lot with stress, but toxins as well. So kind of pulling out some of those um, things in obviously on vacation we had a few adult beverages, so that's probably why I attended the spa more so than any de-stressor. But I know they talked a lot with the salt about the kind of the chemical toxins, what we eat, what we're in the environment. There's so much in our world today that gets stored in our bodies, and I know the salt has a lot to do with that. Also stress, the ability for our cells to be able to recover when we have lower levels of stress. So I think that helps.
Very neat.
Yep. And Asha said, yeah, she's done it before. It was very relaxing. I think, yes, very much so. Any other thoughts or questions? So good daily hints that we talked about today. Good practices for ourselves and even others. sometimes just because we haven't experienced it doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for someone else. I think it takes a village to be able to figure out what works.
And I like how you presented various options, things we can do for free at home that take, a minute or 10 minutes walking outside, or, on those special occasions where we want to splurge on ourselves, engaging in a salt room or spa experience. It's, doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, I think is important to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I'm going to just say that, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned that's helped me to not feel overloaded is that walking away from my computer, because I'm telling you, I was, just tied to it all the time. And I'm still checking, I'm still very accessible. But again, when we're having family time or, things of that nature, that was a big hurdle for me to not be reading something or writing something, to be present. And then I think it was Ariana Huffington. She had written something about not doing not having your phone readily available all the time for pictures and things when you get together. And so I tried that. And I find that other folks, my kids, they will maybe snap a picture here or there when I'm not necessarily paying attention. And so they're still capturing those memories on camera. But then when I'm having, a stressful day um, or a moment, I don't have to go to my phone. I can just retrieve that funny thing from my memory. And that gives me great pleasure and great joy. So I'm very intentional about that. And that's been helpful for me.
I find too, I love to go to the beach. I don't live near a beach, so when I go, it's really magical for me. And not that I like to go in the water, but I just love the sound and all that. I have some shells that I've collected, and some of them are really soft. And so the tactile experience, sometimes I always have a couple shells at my desk. And when I'm feeling particularly stressed, I'll just pick up a shell, and the ones I have are really smooth and just kind of hold it. And that brings me to a place of relaxation because I put myself back on that nice, warm, sandy beach, and it just gives me an escape. So that's another thing that I do that I'd like to share.
That's wonderful.
I agree, you guys. There's always those happy places in our worlds, whether it's in our homes or in outside our home. As I said, I'm in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, and sometimes it's like, okay, I don't have a beach, but I do have a cornfield that is often as beautiful as the beach some days, unless you have allergies. But it's having that opportunity to be able to just kind of enjoy the moment in the peace and serenity. The evenings, I love September in the Midwest. It's the cool evenings, sweatshirt, football kind of weather. And it's probably one of my favorite times to go outside. We've had some beautiful moons. We've had some beautiful skies as of late. If anybody caught the northern lights that were the last few days, they were absolutely gorgeous. And so I think we can find those moments in our lives that we can take advantage of and sometimes plan for as well. So
Yep.
I think unless we've got anybody else, why did you want to take it away and finish? Are we supposed to do some things to finish up for nursing CEUs?
Absolutely. Well, first, I want to thank the both of you for carving out time for this workshop. It was a powerful experience listening to all of these suggestions, just hearing you be authentic with your own experiences. Sometimes, we have a hard time relating with people, but I did not at all during this experience. And I appreciate you for that and your candor and everyone that joined. I want to thank you all so much for carving out 90 minutes to join us to engage in this workshop. Your presence is truly appreciated. There are some, let's see, some resources that will be included when I send the slides out. You will be receiving these slides and the PowerPoints in the next 24 hours. And then for those of you who want to claim nursing CEUs, there is a link here I'm going to place it in the chat. You can obtain those. Oh, and you know what? I placed the wrong link in the chat, so I apologize. I will send the correct link in the chat. Although that was a great session as well. That I just put in the chat. I will send out the correct link when I send out the messaging to you in the next day or so. And you can also find a link to this recording on our OTLME website, also in Commons if you do a search for it. And going back just to a comment that Dr. Green made, you can find relaxation videos, some yoga, chair yoga sessions, things like that in Commons if you do a search for those. Several presenters have done those for us, so do check those out in Commons. And if you need help searching for those, reach out to me and I'll assist you with that. So once again, thanks to everybody. If you have any questions or comments about today's session, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at otlme@mail.waldenu.edu. Your presenters will also be copied in the email that you receive, so feel free to reach out to them as well. At this point, I'm going to conclude our workshop and thank everybody for attending. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.